Captain America Brave New World has recently been released with mixed reviews. This is not a review, but there will be some plot points of the film discussed, so here is your spoiler warning. Though there has been a lot of discourse about the different aspects of the film, one thing that's been bothering me that I haven't been seen talked about a lot is the suit change. His new suit is very plain, and the change seemed very pointless, but I wanted to watch the movie first before jumping to any conclusions. Now that I've seen the film, I can confirm we've once again been given a mediocre MCU-ified costume. But this got me thinking, what makes a good superhero suit? I believe I've narrowed it down to 3 categories that need to be met: adaptation, context, and iconicity. Sam Wilson's debut as Captain America in the Disney Plus show The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is hands down one of the best adaptations of a comic book suit in live action. Comparing the suit to its comic book counterpart, it's almost 1-to-1, but it's not. But that's not a bad thing. Part of what makes these movies what they are is the fact that they take place in a somewhat more realistic version of a whimsical comic book universe. These characters are wearing skin-tight spandex most of the time. If any of these suits were adapted as an exact copy, they would look horrible, but we'll touch on that later. So let's take a look at what they changed and still managed to make it look ripped straight from the page. The main thing we can notice immediately is the chest design around the star is different, as well as the lines that connect to the shoulder. The stripes in the stomach area are more angular on the adaptation, leading to the lines down to the belt that also have some small changes. Now you could argue some other small changes, like what looks to be a difference in texture, but those types of changes can be chalked up to different mediums. But as far as changes go, proper changes, there's not much. But to get a full understanding of what a good suit looks like, we need to take a look at both sides of the coin. What does a bad adaptation look like? Not necessarily a bad costume, but specifically a bad adaptation. It'd be very easy to point out something like Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine, but they didn't even try to adapt the suit. We want something that is trying to be a representation of the character. I think a more proper example is Andrew Garfield's first Spider-Man suit from The Amazing Spider-Man 1. Spider-Man is one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video, but once again, we'll get to that. I've since grown to love this suit, especially using it in the 2 different Insomniac games that feature it, but come on, look at the difference. This is not a Spider-Man suit, it's a basketball. Immediately, the standout is the eyes. Rather than the typical white, they're a yellowish golden color. The spider insignia is much larger and broken up by the web pattern that turns into a more arrow shape as it progresses. The gloves are broken up by more blue segments than the original. The boots continue the trend of manipulating the web lines to look less uniform. There are many random lines within the blue segments of the chest that lead down to the legs. They also just decided that he didn't need a belt design anymore. They love to add random lines, but decided that these lines were too random, I suppose. But the TASM 1 suit is a fantastic way to transition into the next major condition. While the TASM 1 suit may not necessarily be a good adaptation, within the context of the film, the suit is amazing. Okay. Peter makes this suit himself using what's available to him. Many different versions of Spider-Man tend to skip over the creation of the costume, with him either just having it or it being gifted to him, like the new Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show. In the Raimi trilogy, he goes from sketching it out to swinging it. But TASM takes special care to show Peter's inventive intuition and resourcefulness. I still think it's really cool that he used sunglasses to make the lenses of the masks, as strange as they may look. Let's take a moment and pivot back to Cap for a second. But not the suit we were talking about previously. This one. The new one. This peanut butter sandwich of a suit. This suit lacks all the personality the first one had, in my opinion, making it look more like a traditional Steve Rogers Captain America suit as opposed to a Sam Wilson suit. I can't say for certain, but I feel like that was the goal, to maybe ease the audience that has been following Steve Rogers for over 10 years to now feel more at ease with someone else taking the mantle. Now, context applies to both inside the universe these characters reside and whatever may be going on in the real world to affect the change. Let's ask Anthony Mackie why they took away the cowl he had in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series.
Why did they take away your white half helmet?
Because I told them that I was never wearing that shit again, dude. That was hard. It was with the heat, the sweat, the fogged up glasses. It was impossible. It was called a cowl. It was my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
You can't do anything.
All right, I'm torn about this. On one hand, it contextually makes sense for Sam to ditch the cowl. He's never worn one before up to this point. Maybe he doesn't like it, it reduces mobility, or something of the sort, you could argue. But many superhero actors have to wear a mask that makes the job harder. I mean, that's part of playing a superhero. Charlie Cox's Daredevil wears a cowl that is very similar under the helmet when filming his scenes in costume, and it works just fine. It's even got the same red lenses that Sam Wilson's suit has. What about an in-universe reason for the change? This is the biggest reason I wanted to wait until I saw the movie before I came to any conclusions. Surely there must be an explanation for the lack of cowl and then the total wardrobe change. But there isn't. He just doesn't have the cowl at all in the only scene where he dons the original costume. It gets cut by a random dude with a knife, even though the suit is made from vibranium. Now the second strongest material in the entire MCU. So later, when leaving for another mission, he literally just pulls the Steve suit out of a closet. So the Wakandans were just so kind enough to make him 2 suits made of vibranium with different designs. They must have had a tailor, a designer, a scientist, at least all on payroll for 2 suits they just handed over to him as a gift. And then at the end, when Joaquin asked if the Wakandans could make a suit for him, Sam's just like, I don't know, man, they might be busy. He has some kind of special deal with the Wakanda. It's just a movie. It's not real. It's just a movie. It's just a movie. Point is, even contextually, it makes little to no sense for Sam to have these changes made. Characters can get upgraded suits as time goes on without it feeling forced, however. Iron Man gets a new suit in almost every film that he appeared in because Tony Stark is a tinkerer and he learns from his mistakes, so his armors keep getting more advanced. The same argument can even be made for War Machine's upgrades. Even Steve Rogers' Captain America himself starts out as a propaganda tool before becoming an actual hero and then skipping forward almost 70 years into the future. He would most certainly need some updated threads. But many of these characters just constantly get new suits without any real need or reason to have them. Like MCU Spider-Man. Tom Holland's portrayal of the character started off with a suit given to him by Tony Stark for joining Team Iron Man in Captain America Civil War. This makes sense for the context of the universe, as Tony even teases him in the introduction scene about his homemade suit.
So, you're the Spiderling, crime-fighting spider. You're Spider-Boy?
Spider-Man.
Not in that onesie, you're not.
It's not a onesie.
Peter is forced to don this suit once again at the climax of his following installment, Spider-Man Homecoming, with Tony taking away the Stark suit, which is a major plot point to further the story. This works. After proving himself, he regains access to the Stark suit. He appears next in Infinity War wearing this suit for one scene before getting his Iron Spider armor gifted to him by Iron Man. Briefly looking at this as an adaptation, this isn't even close. I won't go too much into detail since that section is already passed, but this also has to be one of the worst adaptations of a suit I've ever seen. Alright, I do believe contextually this suit still works since he needs it for the sake of the space adventure he's about to go on. And we can skip over Endgame since he uses the same suit, even up to the beginning of his next installment, Spider-Man Far From Home. This film is where the overabundance starts but can still be argued with context. He uses the Iron Spider armor at home, Aunt May packs him the Stark suit, and S.H.I.E.L.D. gifts him the Night Monkey stealth suit, and before finishing the film, he designs his own upgraded suit. This Peter changes his suit more often than I do when I play Spider-Man. But these still work. If you're given an iron suit of armor, that's gonna be your main one. He can't have his identity revealed by being Spider-Man in Europe, and he needs a proper suit for the ending. Sure, it's still there. But his most recent installment to date is the worst contender for this problem. Spider-Man No Way Home is the movie that gave me the idea for this video over 3 years ago. Bring that suit counter back. The movie starts with the upgraded suit. He then randomly switches to the Iron Spider armor, and then Doc Ock takes part of the armor, so he switches back to the upgraded suit before getting green paint stained to it, so he flips it inside out? This is one of the most infuriating suits ever. Technically, it's not a separate suit, even though it's marketed that way, so we'll count it as a separate suit. The lenses shouldn't flip the way they do. The suit is riddled with technology and cords. He stopped Mysterio and swung around the city while this was rubbing on his skin. After he cures Doc Ock, he's given the armor back to put on top of his upgraded suit, making the hybrid suit. I hate this suit so much. Even though they were meant to be the same suit with a small bit of armor added on top, they completely overhauled the suit. It doesn't even match the original suit's color. I think what makes it even worse is that this is the film that finally pairs all three live-action Spider-Men. And while Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are swinging through with their iconic suits that adapt the classic suit, Tom is running around in this mess and completely ruins the synergy. Thankfully, at the end of the film, he dons a new homemade suit that is designed to look more like his comic book counterpart. Tom's Spider-Man wears 5 different suits in this one movie, which aside from the Night Monkey suit in his original homemade suit, that's all of his costumes. His reason for donning these suits within the film are loose at best, and outside of the universe, it's a very clear drive to sell merchandise. Spider-Man is one of, if not the most popular superhero, and if they can squeeze 5 different action figures out of one movie, they sure will. And that's not even including the suits that Tobey and Andrew wear. Maybe this frustrates me more than most since I'm such a diehard Spider-Man fan, but when suits are constantly being phased in and out, it can alienate the audience as they grow attached to these characters. I believe part of what makes these characters become so popular is their recognizability, which brings me perfectly into our last category. Spider-Man's design has remained very similar to the one seen in 1962's Amazing Fantasy number 15, which is now 63 years old. Granted, as he gained his own comic book series and more time was spent with the character, small changes were made. This black section that looked blue became blue, the web wings were ditched, and the back logo switched from blue to red. But if you show this comic cover to anyone, they will know who this character was. Look, here he is again in 1963. And again in 1975, and 1982. Oh, hey, and there he is again in 1994, 2001, 2018, and his most recent comic book series that is released this year in 2025. Notice the costume looks almost identical, with changes mainly coming from the different artists' interpretations. Spider-Man has managed to remain relevant through 6 decades now, in no small part to his expertly designed suit created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. He is instantly recognizable and has become a staple of pop culture, appearing in 17 movies with more on the way, 14 shows, 41 video games, 21 Macy's Thanksgiving Day parades, a Broadway musical, a Christmas album, a rock album, a bed, and a bunch of toothbrushes. I had this one as a kid. For any character to maintain this level of iconicity, they have to stay consistent. Updates are important and necessary, but at the end of the day, what works, works. Many versions of Spider-Man that uniquely adapt the suit end up with a classic version of the suit anyway. The Amazing Films did it, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man did it, and the MCU has even gone back to a more classic look. Todd McFarlane even gave us the character of Venom to have a fun story reason to get rid of Spider-Man's famous black suit in the comics because he loved the classic suit so much.
Venom is a complete and utter happy accident. Why? Because when I was taking over Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man was in the black costume and I didn't like it. Put him back in the red and blue costume. What if I take the costume off the dude, put it on something else, I'll give you some drawings. Those drawings ended up being what we now know as the look of Venom.
Now I've gone on about Spider-Man for too long. Let's run back to Captain America. Sam Wilson has been around since 1969 and has worn many Falcon uniforms since his inception. I am partial to the one in Superhero Squad. But we aren't looking at Falcon appearances, we're looking at Captain America. And Sam didn't properly take the shield until 2014, debuting with the suit that we've discussed up to this point. However, there is an appearance before this one in the comic book Captain America Sentinel of Liberty, where he wears Steve's original suit to fight the hate group Sons of the Shield, using Captain America's imagery to push their message. Most recently, as of recording, a new suit has been announced to debut in Avengers number 26, and it is, not his finest attire. Sam doesn't have the same wardrobe as Spidey or even Steve Rogers to pick and choose which aspects they can take from each iteration. He has 3 suits, 2 of which aren't even real options, at least yet. Marvel Studios seemingly wanted to try something different and create their own rendition of an iconic Sam Wilson Captain America costume, and unfortunately, I don't think they did that with this suit. Maybe they'll take the Spider-Man route, and by Secret Wars we'll have a suit that more closely resembles his comic book counterpart. Let's just hope it's not this one. So why does any of this matter? Honestly, it doesn't. Let's not forget that these are costumes worn by actors to prance around as fictional characters. But a lot of people care about these characters and these projects. I mean, clearly we do. I just spent who knows how long ranting about men in tights, and you just watched the whole thing. I just think it's important to note the impact that these films have on the perception of these characters. Many people only know these characters from the MCU and think that those are the definitive interpretations of them. On many occasions, characters have even changed in the comics to more closely match their MCU counterpart, for better or worse. When these iterations of landmark fiction become pop culture standard, it's important that they're represented properly. If you're gonna save the world, you gotta do it in style.
Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man of the year 2099.
That's me, ready to save the universe and looking good while doing it.
The next.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell notifications to get notified every time we upload a new video here on Comeback Kid Films. This year for 2025, my goal is to make a new video every month on either this channel or my Camden Parsons channel. If you haven't, go ahead and check that out. I have Fufun Camden News 3 for my video for January this year. But yeah, plenty more to come, and I'm very grateful that you decided to check this one out. I'll see you guys next time.